first of all, everybody knows what gold is. Not everybody knows what Bitcoin is. A lot of people, everyone's aware of it, but the ownership is much lower as a percentage. I heard on something this weekend that it was like U.S. is 8%. I've heard other people say it's 14% of the people own some crypto, which I hate to even limp all the other shit in with Bitcoin. But I would think, I feel like we're kind of at that Gladwell tipping point where maybe 10% of the country owns Bitcoin now. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's a little less. But everyone knows what gold is, and gold's your go-to inflation hedge. And so it does tend to smell out debasement. People tend to look at the government's behavior and say, okay, they're spending more than they're bringing in, therefore they'll have to debase. They haven't done it yet, but we know they will do it. It started, and you can see this. I mean, gold multiple times has broken out in advance. It's funny, gold moves and then they debase, and it's kind of like, it's almost as if gold could look around the corner. And then after the gold move happened, there's some great charts that lay gold and Bitcoin on top of one another. Bitcoin moves, and it moves even further than gold, and that's because it's got two adoption curves. It's got, this is sound money insurance, but it's also got this is a new form of asset that very few people know about, and more people are learning about every day, and the supply is fixed or close to fixed. It's 0.8% annual growth today, and gold's 1.7% annual growth in supply, and that 0.8 is going down every 4 years. So, long story short is that, yeah, I mean, I'm very bulled up on all of these assets. I mean, probably the most exciting one right now, and a lot of people say it's a shitcoin, and it kind of is silver. And that's because silver has been just suppressed for so long, and it's got two roles. It's a monetary metal, but even more importantly, in my view, forget the monetary role. It's actually an essential element that's needed in solar and in batteries, yeah, and in a lot of other applications. And we've been running a deficit for a long time. There's a coin shop near where I live where, every time I go in there, I see a few more tea sets. And so, grandma decided she needed some cash, and she picked up all her, yeah, all her tea set and walked over, and this guy weighs it and gives her some fraction of the melt value of that stuff. And so there's a lot of silver sitting around in the world, stored in various places, but there's not a big inventory of silver, and it's a small input to whatever it goes into. So if its price goes up, the buyer is pretty price insensitive. It gets used in electronics, and there are charts that show that if the solar demand just in China continues to grow the way it's been growing, it'll consume over 2/3 of the silver that we produce every year, whereas it's consuming about 25% of it right now. So it's one commodity that's not below its two all-time highs. It was high in 1980 at $50 when the Hunt brothers tried to corner it. They changed the rules. And it was high again in 2011 in the last silver gold bull market at 50, briefly, very briefly. Mm-hmm. And then it fell. And, we're not even at 50 yet. We're in the 37, 8, 9 range. We haven't broken 40. And, looking at the charts, doing technical analysis, looking at everything I know, I mean, I'm highly confident silver's going through 50, and then it's going to 70, and then it's going to 100. And I just listened to Gary Savage last night. He thinks it's going to 250 to 500. So, I don't know about that, but but I do know it's going higher, because I think we're in an inflationary world, and I think we're in an inflationary environment. And we can't just, that's the thing that people think, or they say, well, the price of gold and silver go higher. Well, we'll mine more gold and silver. Yes, we will. But, from the day you first make a first discovery till the day the metal comes out of the ground is often, it's never less than 5 years. It's often 10 years, and sometimes it's 15 years. So, it's not like we can just turn on a tap and have more gold, or turn on a tap and have more silver. We've got to invest a lot of CapEx, and we've got to just invest years. I mean, there's just certain things, it's not like, in 9 1-month periods, you can have a baby. You got to have 1 9-month period to turn it into a gold mine. So, so those things are going to come along. And I think capacity, I mean, supply will go up with these higher prices, no doubt, but, it's not going to go up fast because of the delay and the time it takes to build a silver mine or a gold mine. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, Brendan, those are, and I write about this in my letters. I wrote about this in the book. I mean, I think we're in a sovereign debt crisis. I think, and the reason is the way our government's constructed. They're paid to buy votes. And so they don't think there's any cost to buying votes. And of course there is a cost, and that's inflation, and we all pay it at the grocery store. But until that system in some way changes, they are going to continue to spend more than they have, which is effectively diluting the beer to buy votes. And so, with that being the case, it's now become pretty obvious because you've got kind of the two of the three forms of sound money, gold, silver, Bitcoin, are at all-time highs. I mean, gold's at an all-time high, very close, 3350, 3500 is high, or 3450 was high, and Bitcoin at 120 or 121, it's 123 was a high. I mean, those are bumping up right against their highs. There's a message there, and by the way, the long bond, the 20 and the 30-year, U.S. government bonds, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. I mean, they've lost half their value since 2020. So, because everyone knows that holding a debt instrument for 20 or 30 years when you're going to print a lot of money, you're not going to get back real value. So, so that to me all says sovereign debt crisis. And I watch the tea leaves on how how they're behaving in the government. And I've often said to my potential investors, I say, well, look, what could ruin the thesis of investing with me, investing in our funds, if the government got really responsible, balance the budget, cut, right? And they all laugh, and I laugh too. You laugh, right? Because it's kind of ridiculous to think it. I mean, it's not impossible, but it seems like a long shot, right?
The trend isn't good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the odds aren't good. And so, so with that, here's the perfect example. I mean, the big, beautiful bill, right? I mean, it just passed, and I was amazed. I mean, what happened to the Freedom Caucus? All these guys were going to, they all, Trump steamrolled them. They all rolled over. I mean, there were literally only two guys who protested vehemently against this: Rand Paul and Thomas Massie. And of course, Trump took them to the woodshed and talked about what criminals they were, how bad they were. And so there's no, Washington is it's so broken, right? It just is so broken. So, and that's sad. And that's bad news. And you can get upset about it, or you can just say, okay, well, now that I know that fact, I'm going to and now that my groceries are going up a lot, which really sucks for all of us. Every time I go to the grocery store, I get mad. Fine. I don't want to be a sucker in this game. I'm going to adjust my spending habits to make sure I save in things, and in Bitcoin terms or in gold terms, my groceries are going down in cost because I pay a little more for groceries every year, but I make it up in the gains I've had in my gold and gold stocks and Bitcoin, like more than make it up. So that, you got to kind of balance one against the other.
Yeah. I just think we're in such an incredibly interesting time. It's just like we've talked about before. I mean, the fourth turning, these monetary transitions, we're in it. It's always hard to see when you're not, unless someone like waves a flag or there's a breaking news on a news channel, like, hey, we're having a monetary transition, like a lot of these things just happen, they just happen day by day. And then you look back and like, oh, wow, this thing happened.
Well, it almost makes you kind of wonder, why doesn't somebody write a book about this shit, right?
Yeah. It was a perfect segue. I was just going to bring up your books. That's why I was, your book, The Big Print. If you're ready for your next piece of education, go click on this video here. However, if you're ready to take action on all the education you have seen, then go to our links right below. Get your hardware wallet from Foundation, $10 off. Go get your seed phrase from that wallet and put it into titanium from Stampseed, 15% off. And then go to the Bitcoin Way. Check them out because they are going to be the team to walk you through everything.